good. Thanks very much. While you're settling in, maybe just a little bit more about me. I formerly worked for Schneider Electric, as he mentioned, and I was also a member of the Smart Manufacturing Leadership Coalition here in the US, as well as I sat on a board of directors for energy efficiency in industrial process in Europe for a number of years as well. Before all of that, though, I was actually a field engineer, doing a lot of work directly on sites, mine sites, dairy sites, manufacturing, some oil and gas, some mining, all out doing actual commissioning work and field work. So I've seen a lot of projects. I've seen a lot of attempts at moving through the digital transformation curve. And I thought today I'd share some of those experiences with you, things that worked, things that I saw that didn't work, things like that. So that's where we are today. So really, I think we all know digital transformation is extremely disruptive, and it is really disrupting everything. But the big dirty secret is it's not cheap, and it's certainly not easy. In fact, the benefits of this could be huge, and I think we know that the future vision, the future scape of our industry is going to be completely disrupted, completely changed as we start to discuss topics like software-defined factory, and we think about what that could mean for the ultimate vision of something like lights-out manufacturing. Now, whether or not you believe that we'll ever get there and ever fully achieve that, along the way, the benefits of having more data, better connected insights of your manufacturing and of your processes is only a positive thing. Really, as you're gathering that data, you're getting better equipment visibility, you can impact things like plant process efficiency, participate better in sustainability programs, look at how that can improve your yield, quality, things like that, and just even overall increasing your business agility. And we used to think that IoT was going to be this big, super game changer, right? And in fact, it will be, but what we've learned along the way is that IoT is kind of the table stakes. Getting things connected and understanding that deeper machine data, process data, things like that, and collecting all of that information, it actually poses bigger challenges than we ever could have possibly thought. In fact, as we get more data, we want even more data. And as we get that data, we suddenly discover that other silos of our data are just that, completely siloed off. It's difficult to connect them. We have maybe master data management issues. We have data siloing, data storage problems. And it's very difficult to get the entire view. So as we move through these technologies that are unlocking data for us and bringing us new insights, we really have, kind of a mess that we have to walk through first. We're going from siloed processes, siloed systems, very centric on the work cell or the work center, and we're walking through this kind of muddy area right now as an industry where we have to get to the clear future boundary of a pure smart factory, where really there's no more silos between IT and OT. That boundary starts to disappear. And we have this fully enabled plant ecosystem that gives us all the insights that we need. Becoming that is going to be fraught with a lot of challenges, right? There's challenges of scale. There's challenges of just getting all that context where we need it. Contextualizing all that data is one of the biggest challenges that we see when we're working with customers who, they've got the connected data, they've got everything they need, but now how to put it into context. Right? What was happening at the time that an alarm occurred? What else was happening in the plant? What else was happening in the environment? What else was happening in every other possible system? So there's a lot of other challenges. We also learned that, as we go along, security and compliance, this is an absolute showstopper. If you're not designing for security from day one, it can completely stop the project, right? Same with, considerations at the edge. How do we make sure that decisions that need to be close to a process that are running processes are happening at the right place? There's no, cloud round trip that has to happen or some other data aggregation event that has to happen in between before we make near-term decision and process decisions. So this is really a big challenge as well. Now, as you can imagine, Amazon is going through its own challenge. Amazon is one of the world's biggest logistics operations. There are more than 200 facilities that we now have connected. This is everything from the internal robotics to how things are tracked and traced through the process. There are now over 750,000 robotic drive units moving packages through all these different facilities. As you can imagine, this is a logistics issue even in just of itself, orchestrating and managing all of these robotic drive units. And figuring out what decisions need to be happening at the edge, where do we have connected data silos that really need to be moved past that boundary and amalgamated with other sources. It's all been a huge challenge. So Amazon itself is going through its own journey with its own facilities, but we're also doing this with customers. And we're doing this with customers across really every sector of the economy. We're working agriculture, we're working with manufacturing, oil and gas, mining, and we're bringing our insights and some of our technologies into play there, but we're also learning what customers are doing in those different fields that works and what doesn't work. So we're kind of blessed to be at the center and the nexus of all of these different digital transformation projects all happening at the same time. And we've really learned from those customers where this becomes complex, where we can hit early roadblocks, things like that could easily be planned for, and how to kind of overcome some of those things. So often, even just choosing where to start a digital transformation project is really challenging. You might look at how do we do digital transformation on our people? What do we need to do for our culture and our people to get things moving that way? What about connected workers, things like that? Is it just purely a machines or a process issue? Do we want to have better visibility into the machines, their running state, their alarms, their alerts, things like predictive maintenance, control, things like that? All of this comes into play. It might even just be budgets. It might be digital transformation, that IT-OT convergence of, we need more data, but it's coming from the shop floor, and therefore we might not have the right skills. Maybe we don't have the right budgets. Maybe we don't have things well funded. We know that there's going to be a business benefit, but it's not articulated well. We just know that we have to go through a digital transformation, so even that can pose a lot of challenges. And really, data-driven ambitions, when you're becoming a data-driven company, these can be throttled along the way at every point. Some of the biggest challenges for data-driven ambition is really the integration challenge. And this comes down to something that we've coined as digital maturity. Digital maturity is something that is just so incredibly important to get right through these digital transformations and really recognize where you're at, start to understand what sources need to be integrated, things like that, and figure out how they're going to come into play later in your business goals. We also have worked with a lot of companies, and we have come to many conclusions on the fact that some metrics can drive bad behavior. And I'm sure all of you have experienced this. Depending on what metrics you're choosing for moving ahead with optimizing on operation, doing digital transformation, some of these can have actually negative consequences. One of the rules that we've put in place is to really look for and identify vanity metrics, for example, making sure that a vanity metric isn't being used as somehow a business metric when it really is going to drive the wrong behavior and isn't going to drive proper process improvement or proper digital transformation improvement. So we really look for where are these vanity metrics, and we should eradicate them early on in the stage. So I've told you a lot of things that can go wrong. What's the best way that we've found companies to be more successful when they're moving through the digital transformation? I'll share a little bit of insight with you. This is obviously not a definitive list. Most of this is just experiential and things that I've seen personally in implementing them in the field and working with customers who are implementing them now. But really, I think there are 4 main considerations you need to start with. Number one is, what is the business outcome that you and your company are trying to achieve? If the business outcome is known by every single person involved in the transformation, from IT to OT to every person on the shop floor to every person in the C-suite, if the business outcome goals are known and well aligned into the culture, you have a much higher chance of success. Because digital transformation is difficult. And along the way, people are going to say, why am I doing this? My life just got harder. It didn't get easier. Is this thing going to replace my job? Or is it doubling the amount of work that I actually have to do? And along that way, if every single person listening to that individual can say, but here's the goal we're trying to achieve, here's how we're going to get there, you not only get better feedback as a loop going through the system, but you get better insights along the way. And really, sorry, clicking. One of the best ways I've personally found is by taking a lean approach, making sure that we're taking the language of the shop floor, of the process, of the business, and making sure that we're aligning the business goals towards the goals of lean operations. As soon as the two lingos come into contact and the two goals become aligned around, not only is this better for digital transformation, but it's helping us to achieve a lean operations goal, things start to click into place. And I think we start to see people doing a lot better in terms of their own journeys with this one. I see. So I have a video. That's why this slide is blank. We've been working with a company called Lockheed Martin. I'm sure you've heard of them. They've been going from a very manual process, a very step-by-step, isolated manual process, to their full digital transformation and the view that they have to becoming a smart operation. So if we can roll the video, we can hear from Lockheed Martin.
Lockheed Martin is one of the largest defense contractors in the world.
From making airplanes fly to defy physics, to launching satellites into space, and to the products we build in MFC.
The initial challenge was the test data ingestion and the analysis to be able to drive troubleshooting over hundreds of test stations.
Factory automation is probably our next biggest hurdle. So we've started to introduce robotics with Boston Dynamics, Mir robots, Spot robots. How do we take those, embed them in our process without disrupting the factory and actually getting the workforce and the robots to work together to improve our efficiencies? We've worked with AWS for quite a few years on our intelligent factory framework. We're looking at machine learning to help throughput in our SMT lines, more deep utilization of IoT, RoboMaker, RoboRunner, Digital Twin Maker, and a couple other tools to help us with robotics, process automation, factory automation in our plants.
We leveraged quite a few services that are available on AWS, Redshift, Glue, IoT, Greengrass. There was a lot of stuff that we were able to kind of combine together, including the integration with our own internal systems. So if we experience a failure, regardless of what that failure is, if we're able to shrink the amount of time that it takes our engineers to troubleshoot, we get better decisions, we get more granular decisions, we're able to dig deeper into some of the details behind why certain things happened, to be able to develop creative solutions for how to do things better, change the way something's operating in the factory. If we can reduce spans, if we can reduce takt times, then we know at least that to some degree we're winning.
So thanks to those guys for doing that video, but really it's been amazing transformation for them. They've really taken hold of that goal of aligning to lean operations, lean manufacturing, and combined that with their digital transformation initiative, and they've been very, very successful as a result. Their transformation is ongoing, obviously, but a really good result there. Another company that we worked with that did this, but they linked their business goals, their digital transformation goals, to sustainability, was Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola specifically, I would butcher the name, I forget how to pronounce this perfectly, but Aytecek in Turkey. They're one of the largest Coca-Cola bottlers in the entire world. Being in Turkey, you can imagine sustainability, water consumption, things like that, very top of mind for them and for their community. So by linking in their goals of sustainability along with their digital transformation, they created basically a digital twin of their entire process to look for inefficiencies use that data story to inform what lean operation decisions they were going to make, and as a result, saved about 20% on their energy annually and about 9% on their water. Me coming from a company like Schneider Electric, who was very focused on sustainability, this was a great story for me personally as I joined AWS. Really happy to see it. I mean, the next thing to think about is flexibility and scale. And again, this is just in the planning process, but designing solutions that don't just meet the need today, but meet the need tomorrow. Now, that's easy to say, hard to do, but when you're looking at the goals of the digital transformation program, you need to think about things like, are we going to acquire somebody 5 years from now? If we do, how are we going to connect those systems? What about the acquisitions we've already done where we already have silos and big data systems that are completely mismatched and very difficult to coalesce? We worked with Hillcorp, and Hillcorp buys up a lot of different well contracts, and they do a lot of well servicing. For them, this was a huge challenge because they had thousands of different SCADA implementations, thousands of different historian implementations as well. And the way in which they were collecting all this data, they did not have a really easy way to look across their entire system. So when we worked with Hillcorp, we thought about how do you do a cloud-based historian that can connect to anything in the world at any time, no matter what the implementation was, and still harmonize and unify those systems. By doing this with Hillcorp, they've managed to completely change the access level to their data. They're rolling this out to about another 20,000 well sites in the near future, and it's giving them the data and the insights that they need because, again, it's aligned with their business goals. Now, I would say once you've got those two things planned and thought through, you need to take a pause because at this point, everybody wants to build a pilot and everybody wants to build a POC. We have aligned business goals. We think we have a good design for scale in the future. But if you don't pause at that moment and think deep thoughts about building security in from day one, architecting that in as part of the entire system design, these projects fail. These projects fail really hard and really fast. If you don't overcome the security question at the very beginning of a project and at the very beginning of a transformation, you won't be successful at the end of the transformation. Too many things build up, too much technical debt comes into play, and at some point somebody goes, oh right, we're not in compliance, how do we fix that? This is not a fixable situation often, and it often creates a lot of budget overrun, a lot of problems after the fact, and it can really halt a project in its tracks. So really stop for a moment right then, pause, think about designing security in from the beginning, and understand that designing security in from the beginning is an asset. This gives you more flexibility later on. It gives you better visibility into operations. You can think about how you're monitoring actions of remote workers, people who do have physical access on site. All of that can be better logged to the cloud, things like that. So security really has to be treated as a number one asset, a first-class citizen, and designed in from the very beginning. And finally, pace of change is so important. And what do I mean by that? There's a belief always that you can do anything. You're a company with great people, great individuals, and that you'll be able to accomplish it. Sometimes we believe that we don't have the skills in-house. Sometimes we overestimate the skills in-house. What you do need to do is assess the skills in-house to understand, do they have the ability to build the entire system themselves based out of basic building blocks? Or are they looking for something that's an accelerator, something that's more purpose-built, something that kind of gives them the 80% solution that they can build on top of and customize? Or do they really need to go to a fully delivered customer system, partner system? We have great partners that we work with who can do that end-to-end turnkey solution. I'm sure many of you work with great SIs, great companies, great third parties, great ISVs. These are the companies that can really accelerate a lot of the debt that's required inside of one of these digital transformations. So really assess those skills across the entire value chain and decide where you need to go. Toyota is a great example of a company who has really strong in-house builders, and they still work with a network of system integrator partners and ISVs to bring all of that technology to bear. So really, going through that skills assessment in-house is what's going to set you up for success in the future. In Vista, similar thing, great in-house skills, great ability to build on their digital twin, to twin their entire process. Sorry, I'm just skipping ahead a little bit quickly here. But in Vista looked at their entire problem as, how do we create a better connected worker? How do we make sure that connected workers can function better in our environment? So we worked with Invista and our partner network to create this digital twin, working with Matterport, working with some other vendors, to give workers a human eye view of the process and of the current state of the system. And this reduces a lot of the kind of the tacit knowledge that somebody would have to address the system and to build upon that. So again, we did this with great partners who were able to offer turnkey solutions, along with Invista's own great builders. And really, that's about it from me. We work with great partners across the entire ecosystem, partners like Autodesk. With Fusion, they use Fusion enabled in the cloud, along with their BIM systems to help customers to create those twins and to think about their own digital transformations. We work with customers in every sector. We work with partners in every sector. And again, part of just understanding how to assess your own skills is to think about who you can do that with. So in conclusion, my quick tips: focus on driving the business outcomes, design security from the very beginning, assess your in-house skills, consider where your needs fall between customization versus turnkey, and build for the long term. Don't forget to celebrate those short-term milestones. Hopefully you'll have an easy path from chaos to convergence. All right, thanks very much.